So why don't you take a second and try and answer the problem, pause the video, and then after you have given an attempt, continue the video and we will try and go over this one together. Okay, so this question is about inequalities. They are asking you which of the following inequalities have at least one positive solution and at least one negative solution. And the thing to think about when you look at problems like this is you want to think about the fact that when you have a number line and you've got 0 and you've got 1 and you've got -1, events that happen between -1 and 0 will have different effects when they're multiplied against things that are greater than -1, or sorry, less negative than -1, or greater or more positive than 1. So a good example would be 0.5. 0.5 squared is going to be 0.25, right? But something like 2 squared is going to be 4, and 4 is larger than 2, but 0.25 is actually smaller than 0.5. So when you multiply by 0.5 you get smaller, when you multiply by greater than 1 you get larger. So these are the type of concepts that questions like this like to play with. So let's look at what we have here. Which of the following will have at least one positive solution, at least one negative solution? So let's look at the first one. The first one is 5 over 3x. Okay, so the first one is 5 minus 3, or 5 divided by 3 times x. I have that right here, and that's going to be less than x, right? So whatever x is, we're going to be multiplying it by 5/3. Now 5/3 is greater than 1. So if this is going to be like -2, and -2 is times 5/3 is going to be negative, it's going to be more negative than -2. And -2 multiplied by 5/3 is going to be at -2 here, and it's going to go that way because 5 over 3 is greater than 1. So we know we're going there, and that's definitely going to be less than -2. So -2 times 5/3 is going to be less than -2. This makes sense, right? So this actually is true. So we have a positive situation. Now let's look at as positive values. If we take any positive value at all, let's take 1 as an example, and we multiply it by 5/3. We're going to be sitting there and we're going to say, is that going to be less than 1? Well, no, because 1 times 5/3 is going to be 5/3, so this one doesn't work. Now, would it work if it's less than 1, 0.5? Again, no, because if you have 0.5 here, 0.5 is not going to be greater than 0.5 times 5/3. And the reason why is because 5/3 makes things larger. Right? It takes whatever you're doing and it amplifies it. So 0.5 is going to be actually less than 0.5 times 5/3. So, and you can try something that's larger than 1 as well, like 2 or 3 or higher, but in general this won't work. So in general, A just won't work. And the reason why is because this 5/3 only makes things larger, and when you have positive values, it's not going to be the case that a positive value for x is going to be greater than a positive value for x that's increased by 5/3. Okay, now let's look at this first one, at this one right here. Let's look at, for instance, let's look at let's try and go in the middle here. Let's go with 0.5s. Let's go with a -0.5 cubed is less than 0.5. Well, does that work? Well, -0.5 cubed is actually going to be -0.125. Is that less than -0.5? Actually, no, that's not the case. -0.5 is right here, -0.125 is right here. So -0.125 is actually greater, and greater by being going this way on the direction line. So actually, no, this won't work. So in this situation, this inequality doesn't work. What about a larger number? So like what about -2? -2 on this side is going to be -2 cubed here. This becomes -8. This remains -2. Is -8 less than -2? Yes, that does work. Okay, so this one works. Alright, so now we have a negative that works. Now, can we find a positive that works? So let's try the same thing. Instead of doing a -0.5, let's do a positive 0.5. We're trying both of these sections, this one and this one. 0.5 greater than 0.5 cubed. Alright, 0.5 cubed is 0.125. Is that less than 0.5? Well, here's 0.5. Here's 0.125. Yes, 0.125 is less than 0.5. So actually, yes, this works as well. So we have a yes and a yes. So we can have at least one negative and at least one positive solution. Right? So this actually is possible. Very good. Now let's look at the next one. This is x minus 6 less than x minus 7. So for x minus 6 less than x minus 7, is it possible to have both a negative and a positive solution for this? Well, let's look at it. If x is any positive number whatsoever, let's do 10 as an example. Alright, 10 minus 6 less than 10 minus 7. 10 minus 7 is going to be 3. 10 minus 6 is going to be 4. Is 3 greater than 4? No. And honestly, that's the way it's going to work for every single number, because all you're doing is creating every single number that's positive, because all you're doing is doing a horizontal shift of negative 6 here and a horizontal shift of negative 7 on the right side. So no matter what two values you pick on this line, you're going to be going, no matter what value you pick on this line, on the left side, you're going to be going this way, only 6. And on the right side, you're going to be going this way, 7. So actually, no matter what, this side is going to be less than this side, whether it's positive or negative. So this one doesn't work either, which means that B is your only option. Now you're supposed to select all that apply, but B is the only answer. All right.